Okay, we're going to kick off the last series of strategies from the 300 ways to buy, sell, and exchange. We're on strategy 21 of volume 1, and there's 12 different volumes here. So strategy number 21, I think this image sort of says it all about this particular section. You could probably think about the deals that you've worked on, just a normal for cash transaction that you really have to come together to work together in order to make these deals a success. But probably more so with an exchanging type of deal, because you would hope that or you'd want to work with the broker who has counseled their client on the other end and is able to have a conversation around what other benefits are to this property besides cash. So let's see if there was anything. Yeah, there was not much said about that. So any thoughts around this? I thought I'd use it as a marketing piece for my business to say that I work collaboratively with my counter brokers. Doesn't have to be adversarial. 22, verbal strategy. Verbal exchange offers don't work. And I think I've actually had a few different scenarios. I have a business partner that is a very experienced investor, and he's always going to want to shop around for the highest price. And there's been more than one scenario where a price was sort of shopped out there. Somebody expressed some interest, but there was of course more more offerings to other brokers, and as the price escalated, some of those earlier brokers were frustrated that they didn't get the property for the price that they said. And it's sort of the idea that it's not really a deal until you're under contract. But I think Bob put this one together that is probably more from the exchanger mindset that, hey, we are talking about this, we are going to do this, we are going to put on our state approved contract forms, but let's get an agreement in writing. So
Is this akin to an LOI?
It could be, I suppose. A letter of intent, at least as I've seen them for retail type of property.
Ramon, could I make a couple of comments? Yeah, very much this is an LO. This is exactly an LOI. It's all, I see the blue circle. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me, right?
Yep, we can hear you good.
Okay. Very much an LOI, very much like a little cocktail napkin, and I'd like to step into modern technology on this. First of all, it's overstating to say verbal exchange offers don't work. Conversations do work, obviously. To leverage this, idea of a creative concept, if you get somebody nodding at the right time and you think there might be a deal there, to follow it up with what these guys are calling a mini obviously has value, because that's a busy guy on the other side. He takes something away that'll have priority, certainly over the thought that he doesn't remember for the next 2 months. But it'll have priority over somebody that just had a better idea in there that he is thinking about as well, because you've got it in writing. I would say also just blending this with modern technology, follow with a text or an email if that's your thing too. Maybe saying, reiterating this. I love the minis. Yeah, I think we should bring them back and incorporate them more into our live meeting at Mile High. But think about it in other terms too, to follow up in other forums, saying, these are my thoughts on this deal. I need your response to this because I think there's something there. That kind of a probe, that kind of an initiation, and that kind of follow-up. If you're talking about something that is legitimate and has some life, it helps a bunch.
And I did notice up at the top, and this is what we include in our LOIs, if on the retail side, this is a binding primary proposal presented to parties in hopes that a binding agreement might be reached. It can be reached by either party at any time until there's a complete meeting of the minds and the signing of final documents. So
Yeah, it's a non-binding LOI, you know, if you want to look at it that way. And you guys know what I mean by a cocktail napkin, right? I mean, people
Mhm.
out having drinks and they write it down and they come away with a little something. So yeah, I love them. You know, they have, I think doing them for the sake of doing them, sometimes the exchangers say that they push that a little too much, but when you have something that's actually resonating with you that, hey, this might work, by all means, you know, get it in some other form just than just conversational.
all right. Thanks, Ross.
Sure.
Counseling and control. I think, in reading through this one, it was more about listening, right? Counseling is listening to what is being said and to what is being implied. Advising potential clients, partners are those you are doing business with, with what the current market conditions permit. I think the key thing here is motivation, right? In the book, he says, and it's not necessarily in this section, right? I guess he did earlier on, really trying to work with people that are maybe above an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, that have a high motivation to sell if they're going to be a seller. And then just point B here, that they're realistic on what they're asking for the property based on what the market's going to be permitting. He talks about counseling, not getting picked in the attributes of the parcel of land, but and not telling the client how great you are, but really probably doing more listening and more asking. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Doesn't mean we don't have thoughts, but go ahead and move on, please. That's counseling, it's kind of a meeting.
Okay. Let's see if there's anything else in there. Yeah, he talks about sending his clients, and he sent his clients to some of these exchanger classes. So you have probably long-term relationships that you're working with investors. Being flexible benefits an exchanger. So the gist of this one is that the more properties that you're willing to take on in different places, he talks about different cities, states, and countries, that you probably can get more transactions done. The one that always stands out is that sort of amazes me when we go to these exchanger meetings. There's a guy in our local area named Blake Allen, and he seems to pick up a lot of different properties. That there was one that I'd looked at. It was like a big chunk of land in Nevada in a desert, and it's sort of interesting. That sort of stresses me out, to think about what am I going to do with this. But maybe there's solar panels, there's a bunch of different things that you can do, but I guess having a mindset of what the potential is and thinking that way. Not much there.
That is about expanding the demand. There is something huge there that I would just add. A lot of what we're trying to do is bring more people into the auction for the property you're representing for a client, or the property you're trying to sell. So anything you can do to expand the demand for that property. Kind of an offshoot of this, we've been in such a strong cash market that I think we're going to have a lot more conscious understanding of the value of exchangers if we're slipping in our market, if things are getting a little rougher. It's really key and really important to expand the number of buyers for a property, or to expand your option if you want a buyer. So taking something in on exchange, even if you don't know that you're an exchanger, or thinking in terms of where the guy wants to go. What's funny is sometimes that creates the better cash buyer as well. We all know that activity begets activity. So when you're creating new bidders, those cash buyers kind of figure out that you've got other things you're looking at, and they feel like they need to step up. So just a benefit. Flexibility just means increasing demand, increasing options.
Yeah, and I was on one of their evening calls. I can't think of when that is or who's organizing it. But it was sort of going around the table, what are you working on type of thing. And I sort of shared, I make my living right now is on the brokerage side, helping people buy and sell or lease. I would like to do more deals. And one of the things that resonated with me was, the experienced exchangers on the call. They said, Ramon, think about how you can make more deals happen. Think about what what you can do, and it could be the concepts of on this exchange model of, could I buy some? Could I, become a principal? Maybe could I get into some of these flipping? How can I use my equity? So it's just thinking about that flexibility. And Michael was working on some things and trying to tap your equity. Have you made any momentum with that, Michael?
I'm slowly getting there. I mean, I have I did a letter of intent with a property Blake has, and so we're sort of waiting. But it's sort of one of these things I've been thinking about. Even the cooperation of brokers, all this stuff, is the Denver market's really interesting right now. In the rental side of the multifamilies, there's a lot not moving out there. People are afraid to buy. And I'm trying to, but if this doesn't go through with Blake, that's sort of what I'm looking at, is trying to figure out how to maybe get even maybe something bigger than what I was trying to do. Because he has a sixplex that I like, that I put that letter of intent, but I haven't heard anything. And I'm also finding that the second part is, if you're doing the note and it's second position, it's a lot harder. Find, people, the banks and a lot of the more conventional loaning just drops out because they're not willing to do any kind of note on if they're not in first position.
Yeah.
But, and then sort of also thinking about looking outside of the state. I know, it's said to be more flexible, but I know David Sanchez was looking outside the state because he could get, he's doing syndication with groups of people, and so he's guaranteeing a return. And the other states are starting now to have more favorable conditions for being a landlord.
Yeah. We we have a guy in our office, a young guy that there are these, I guess, mentors. I can't think of what this one that he paid, but he went to this mentorship course, and him and his partner have fast tracked their knowledge in syndications, and they've been doing a lot of stuff, I think, in Indiana, and they're looking at more of the cash flow versus the appreciation, which we it's an added benefit that we have here, but they're cash on cash return. Unpriced exchange median. The key of this one here was just taking the cash out of the picture and really just focusing on the other things. It says have an exchange meeting where only unpriced packages are permitted. This helps people start to understand the need to concentrate on benefits. It exchanges the focus from the property to the owner, and it will repeat and I will repeat the statement. It will unlock transactions that cannot be made when working with a price package. Yeah, I think you can't say that enough. Just keep taking cash out of the picture and try to ask what the problem is that you're trying to solve, and then also looking at what the solutions are.
It's a good idea. I love you bringing this up. I mean, that's something we ought to do sometime. I've got a sports analogy for that. Two of them, actually. One of them, Lee Trevino used to, do you know that name? He's a golfer. and he was a really creative, skilled golfer, but he would play a whole round of golf with just a 7-iron.
Wow.
Putts, drives, yeah. And realize the nuance you could put on one club, and it made him better with all his clubs, he said. And it makes sense to me. I'm not much of a golfer, so I'm not, but I understand what he was talking about. It makes you a more creative. Paul Brown was a great football coach, the Cleveland Browns. And one time he had a game out of the blue where he just ran the ball every time, and he had the most creative passing game in the league in the 50s. He brought up what was then the West Coast offense, but he had a particular game where he told his team, "We're not passing today. We have to figure out how to do it on the ground." And a long story behind it, I won't go too far, but that kind of thing that he had made his team better. It's like, we're going to figure out how to do it just this way, because we're going to create that part of our game as well. This is a great idea. I think it would be fun to throw ourselves into situations where, I guess if you ever coached kids, to make them pass 5 times before they take a shot, in soccer or basketball or something like that. It's that kind of thing where you guys are used to doing it this way. Now we're going to make you do it this other way that creates the better team concept, the better thing that we're trying to get to as a team. Love it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. But these are good ideas that pop out of this. Don't be dissuaded. We got the smaller numbers. Maybe this isn't the forum to do it, but by you bringing this up, I mean, it's thought provoking. Maybe we bring it up in the meeting. Maybe if we're down to just a few people, and Ted, by the way, is in Wichita, I think, doing some kind of meeting. There might be some other people tied into that, but anyway, maybe this gets incorporated into the Mile High meeting and we do it in 10 minutes.
Yeah, Bob also talks about sort of a brainstorming that him and people that he used to run around with at the time, they would actually sit there and just, write out what is the problem that we're trying to solve. And they would say, you have to come up with 70 different, what are we trying to solve here? But I think that it would be interesting to go through the total brain trust, like just put it up on a board in one of our meetings, and then, figure out the solutions and actually to see how could this happen? How could this could be worked through? Because sometimes you see some of the packages being presented over and over for a long time, and maybe they are really just difficult ones, but maybe there's some that could open up. He also talks about having these books, and I think it was the Chatham book, saving, knowing who has what inventory, and then who might be interested in what, so that way you can always go back to say, hey, maybe I can get this person to take this problem. Yeah. I don't know. I need to grow my people that are willing to do that more.
Right. And we need to keep our Mile High group online. I'm sorry I'm talking about them so much. I hope everybody here is local, I guess, so it's all right. But it's funny, we've gotten away from the packages too much. And you used to have some state-older packages, but the beauty there is that every now and then Ted or Joe or somebody would step up and say, hey, you've brought that. You're saying the same thing. Who is it? They'd stand up and make something happen on it, even if it sounded crazy. What terms would Michael Nix with his property, go into title on this other one? There are some terms under which you'd buy every property that's ever been presented, in the last year.
Yeah, and I think, even at that last meeting, the one at the DTC, you saw we're not having moderators hurt things. The land in Roxborough, that she brought up, if the land had been moderated, it would have been a good piece. It would have been really interchangeable.
I agree.
And, then you have Thomas Powell who brings up his thing in the Springs every time. I think if he got a moderator, he might be able to get some traction.
Right. And get people more steeped in what Ramon's bringing here, more steeped in the principles of, creating a bigger market. So, good.
Well, just from this conversation, that just made me think of, so that land in Roxborough, right? That was the guy that had more conservative mindset around politics and wanted out of Colorado, right?
Yeah, she could do a
so
lot.
he moved to Texas, Christopher has some land in Texas that he'd like to get creative and do something with.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a synergy there.
And that's what,
Christopher, I forgot you're in Texas. I apologize. We're
Yeah.
talking about our local meeting. Don't need to do that.
Christopher joined, did you join the exchanger meeting this week, Christopher? I don't know. I can't remember if you were there
I was
on
not.
Wednesday. Okay, but that one, that actually might be an interesting one, and I know Cleve had shared that maybe we can look at what Christopher has and see how we can make it sort of a marketing piece and see if there's some things we can get from it, since he's the principal on the property and, you know, wants to see what can happen. So
Was
maybe
that
we
your
can do
last
that.
one? Was that your last frame, Ramon?
What's that?
Is that your last frame? The one we just looked at?
Yeah, that's the last one.
Do you mind if I ask Christopher, what part of Texas are you in, Austin, or I forgot? Dallas, Austin?
I'm in Austin. My my tracks are actually in the Dallas market in a, well, it's Rockwall, but it's just outside of Dallas.
What product type do you tend to specialize in?
Industrial, but I've
Wonderful.
been leasing office lately. Seems that's where what I've been getting paid on anyway, right, recently.
All right, gotcha. Hey, great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Real quick,
Good to
can
know
you,
you're down there.
maybe we could put it in a package, but maybe you could share just a little bit about the land that you have, and, you know, what are the benefits of that property that you see?
Okay, sure. So it is two parcels. One parcel is about a little over 4 acres, and the other one is it's 4.2 acres, I believe, and then the other is 0.8 of an acre. They're out parcels to a shopping center. The shopping center was built in the 70s. It's been updated in the last 6 years, 5 or 6 years, and it's the last zoning in Rockwall that is well, it's a PD, but it has multifamily zoning, and it's, of course, it's limited in density, but there's a mixed use development contiguous to mine that has precedence of between phase 1 and phase 2 average was about, I think, 24 or 26 units per acre. That's a 5-story mixed use development right there. So one of the tracks is like I said, it's 0.8 of an acre. It's so everything's great except one thing, and that is there is no wastewater, or the wastewater has to be run from that track that's 0.8 of an acre. It has to be run to an existing line, and that will cost probably around 100 to 150. I'm still waiting for a quote to come back, but when I had it quoted several years ago, it was about I had several, and like I said, it ranged from 100,000 to 150,000. So other than that, I mean, it's the, I guess you'd call it the sunset side of the street. So people coming home from work would just turn right into whatever business goes there. It's a good track. I mean, they're both great tracks. I just, for some reason, haven't been able to. I've worked some deals with it from various. One of the tracks for fast food, QSR, and then the other track, I have talked with a developer, a multifamily developer, and the density was the issue with him, but there's precedent for getting the density increased quite a bit. So, but that was several years ago, but nothing materialized from it.
Do you have it marketed sort of
do.
publicly? You do? Can you send those brochures
Sure.
that we have? And then what are you looking to get out of it?
I want income property. That's
You want income property?
Yeah, because this is, it's just I had it leased out for staging area for the project next door to mine when they were building their phase 2 mixed use. And so for several years I was making money off of it, but I have not in a while. And so I'd like to get out of those and get into some income producing properties.
Okay. We have an SEC meeting. We could talk about this offline. I was debating on going, but maybe we can discuss and I could pitch it there.
Okay.
I think that's coming up in a few weeks.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll get everything together for you.
I should step off, Ramon. Let's keep,
Okay.
for me, I'd say, let's keep her short when it's short, but
Yeah,
good for you doing this.
good deal. So if at least the three of you are interested in continuing on, we'll start the next section of volume 2.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ramon, one quick comment. On you don't have to send, probably just say the strategies. I think you've sent out the whole book to people, haven't you? Just tell them what
No,
strategies.
No,
Yeah.
I've encouraged people to buy them. I just been trying to get the momentum going, but
I
yeah,
thought somebody sent out a scanned book, the whole thing. No,
no, I just
Oh,
keep
okay.
sending out the pages.
my
Um,
mistake. My mistake. Okay.
Yeah,
That
Never
meeting
mind.
with Bob Steele last week, somebody had mentioned a
It's online.
URL, and it was let's see, I have it here. It's rexnet.io.
Yeah, RexNet.
So I've been looking at that because it has at least 121 of them that I've seen.
Okay.
Have them
so
all,
far.
shouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe we could start going off of there. And like I said, I'm going to talk to Bob's colleague that was sort of leading the call and see if maybe there's a group that's already doing something similar. So, but okay. Hey, Chris, I'll connect offline. Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Michael, for joining us.
Yep,
Yes,
thank you.
take care.
Yeah. Look forward to next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.